It is being organized by the Economics Department, Pragyutis College, under the aegis of the Economic Planning Forum. We are being supported by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Pragyutis College. The topic for today's discussion is, will the Northeast lead the growth story of India? And we are very happy to have Dr. Susmita Priya, Associate Professor of Devicharan Borua College, Jorhat, who had briefly worked with us long time ago. We are very happy to have her with us. Actually, Bhabananda Deka was the fourth principal of our college. He had served from 1987 to 1992. Prior to that, he was the head of the department of economics and a pioneer in writing books in both in English and in Assamese language. So after his death, the department, along with the Pragyutis College Teachers Unit, organized the first Bhabananda Memorial Lecture. And 1 year after his death, and thereafter, the Economics Department have been organizing this lecture, and today it is the 12th lecture we are going to organize, and we are very happy to have you, all of us, here. And I now request Dr. Namita Das, head of the department, Economics Department, Pragyutis College, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon and greetings to one and all present here. It is a glorious moment to extend my warm wishes to everyone on behalf of the Department of Economics, Pragyutis College. I hereby convey my sincere thanks to our principal, Manoj Kumar Mahanta, for encouraging and supporting us in this kind of endeavor. On behalf of Pragyutis College body, I welcome and convey my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Susmita Priya, Associate Professor, Devicharan Borua Girls College, Jorhat, for agreeing to deliver the 12th Bhabananda Deka Memorial Lecture on the topic, Will the Northeast Lead the Growth Story of India? The topic, no doubt, will throw light on India's Northeast and what are its strengths and weaknesses and what needs to be done for its development. Dr. Susmita Priya worked for a brief period in our college, and I'm very happy to have her in our midst today. So warm wishes to Susmita. I also welcome Dipakdhar Bora sir, Torun Bordoloi sir, Sapanjyoti Sharma sir, and faculties from Gujarat, Lokesh Jain and Mr. Bhagela, to this memorial talk that is going to be held now. I also welcome and extend my warm wishes to all faculty members and students who are participating in this memorial lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Namita. Actually, we had invited the principal to address the gathering, but due to a meeting at the DPI office, he is presently unavailable. We had invited one of our former teacher, very dear to us, Dipakdhar Bora, who worked for a long time at our college and was the former vice principal and was a contemporary of Bhabananda Deka. So I thought our department felt that it would be very right to invite him and share some of his time with Bhabananda Deka, share some moments and assess him. Thank you. Over to Bora.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm very happy to be here today on the occasion of Bhabananda Deka's Memorial Lecture. I was fortunate enough to work under Deka sir from 1969 till his retirement as principal. Although he was a teacher of economics, but he has a multifaceted personality, particularly on Sankardeva's about teaching and all that. He is also started several colleges throughout Assam as founder principal. Uh, I learned many things from him. Even after retirement, he used to visit my residence to talk about many things, including the present economy of Assam and Northeast. So, my heartfelt gratitude to all of you. I won't take much time because there are so many others who will speak about him, but I feel fortunate and I really, really feel what I say, to work under him and to learn many things, particularly in college administration when he was principal of the college. He taught me many things regarding how to conduct examinations, how to evaluate answer scripts, and FDR. And so I wish all of you a happy discussion on the topic. I'll be with you to listen all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bora sir. I will now request Dr. Ira Das to kindly introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Susmita Priya. Over to Ira.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to introduce today's guest speaker, Dr. Susmita Priya, a young economist of Assam, a bilingual writer. She works as an economic analyst in local dailies, and she is currently working as an associate professor in the Department of Economics, Devi Sharan Borwa College, Jorhat. She was born in Jorhat in 1973. She did her schooling at Jorhat Government Girls Higher Secondary School. She was graduated from JB College, Jorhat. She did her master's from Guwahati University with a gold medal in economics in 1997. She obtained her PhD degree from GU under the guidance of renowned economist Dr. Srinath Barua sir. Her topic was Demand for Consumer Durable Goods in Urban Assam, an econometric study. She has published many important books on economics to her credit. She wrote 9 numbers of text-cum reference books, 6 for higher secondary students and 3 for BA students of Dibrugarh and Guwahati University. Some other books to her credit are Contemporary Economic Issues, a collection of essays which was published in 2016. Next, Modi Economics, an impartial analysis, which was published in 2019. And recently, last year, she published Migrant Laborer, Life Between Hope and Despair. She has also published a number of papers in national and international journals. She was appointed as a member of Advisory Committee of Assam Electricity Regulatory Commission, Government of Assam. Now she is going to deliver her lecture on Northeast economy. I think her lecture will enrich us. So over to
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you, Ira. Before the guest speaker speaks, I would like to request all guests, colleagues, and students to mute their mics. And if anyone wishes to pose any question, I request them to kindly post them in the chat box, and we'll take up those at the end of our lecture. Thank you. I will now request our guest speaker, Dr. Susmita Priya, to deliver her lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar. Am I audible, sir? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I would like to pay tribute to Dr. Bhabananda Deka sir renowned economist and literator on whose memory this lecture is organized. Dr. Deka sir did several studies on problems related to Assam and Northeast economy. His book, Ahomar Arthanti, published in 1963, is very valuable for the students as well as researchers of economics. I consider it as my privilege to deliver a lecture organized in the memory of such a personality. There are very few people who can excel into completely separate studies to completely different fields. He's one of them. I would also like to offer my sincere gratitude to the family of Pragyutis College, particularly to the Department of Economics. I'm especially delighted. This is the first college in which I started my career as a college teacher. One and the other time, I often remember my colleagues of that time, Goswami Shar, Vara Shar, and Vice Principal Soduri Sir, Iraba, Namita Ba, Junali Ba, Kalpana Ba, Viva Baido, Sukla Ma'am, and several others. I know it is their love and goodwill for me that compelled them to invite me this time. Thanks a lot to you all. As Assam, as well as the Northeast economy, was at the center of his thought. So, on this memorial lecture, I would like to speak on a topic related to the Northeast economy. The topic of my lecture is, will Northeast region lead the growth story of India? Northeast region, a land of mesmerizing beauty with rich cultural legacy and abundant natural resources, has failed to occupy a central stage in the development initiative undertaken by the government of India. A growing consciousness has been seen among the Indian leadership recently regarding the growth potentialities of the Northeast region. Of late, a leading economic think tank, Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations, organized a conference in March 2021, and in his keynote address, Union Minister, Development of Northeast, Mr. Jitendra Singh, said that Northeast India would lead the growth story of India. It was clear that he did not say so due to the apparent success of the Northeast region or Northeastern states in the management of COVID in its first wave. Actually, he said so from the perspective of active policy. He stressed on the importance of enhancing trade infrastructure as well as the connectivity to enable Northeast to play a lead role in the growth story of India. Actually, since low-caste policy, Indian policymakers and economists have been reiterating the potentialities of Northeastern states, Northeastern region. And low-caste policy changed to active policy in 2014. It focuses on the enhanced market with the Eastern countries and Southeastern countries. Even in the Global Summit, Investor Summits held in 2018 in Assam, current Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized on the role of active policy in enhancing the growth of Northeastern economy. Actually, active policy requires increased people-to-people contact, increased trade ties, and other relation with the ASEAN and other neighboring countries, including Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal, China. Now the question is, our data, whether our data support this perception or not. Let us go to the data, and broad data actually do not depict a rosy picture in this regard. And in order to discuss data, we have to go to the slide. So just 1 minute.
Okay.
I'm sorry for the interruption. Just you have to wait for 1 more minute.
It's all right.
If we go to the data, India's fastest growing state was Meghalaya in 2013-14, with a growth rate of 9.7%, and it surpassed the fastest growing big state Madhya Pradesh. At that time, even Arunachal Pradesh grew faster than Gujarat. And at that time, the people below the poverty line were 12.8 million in entire Northeast, while 12.9 million people were poor in the fastest growing state, Karnataka. Is it not presenting?
It's not presenting. It's
No, we have not seen Susmita.
I think it's coming. Yes.
Yes. Now,
This happened due to the power cut. I am very sorry for that.
It's all right.
If we discuss the data, then in 2013-14, the fastest growing state was Meghalaya with a growth rate of 9.7%. And at the time, even Arunachal grew faster than Gujarat. And at the time, 12.8 million people of Northeast were below the poverty line, while 12.9 million people of Karnataka were under the poverty line. And if I consider the period between 12 and 19, the average growth rate of Mizoram surpassed the growth rate of other states. Mizoram has the highest average growth rate of 12.56% at a constant rate, at a constant prices. And Mizoram is followed by Tripura with a growth rate of 9.94%, and then came Gujarat. Of course, Manipur and Arunachal were at that time among the bottom 5 states. At current prices, Mizoram is followed by Tripura and Sikkim to be among the top 5 Indian states. And they have the growth rate above the national average of 11.72%. But the question is, does high growth rate mean that they are the leader in growth? It is not so. If I consider the period 1961-62 to 1983-84, then during this period, we see that these states have experienced negative growth rates several times. For example, in case of Assam, in 1961-62, it was negative growth, and in 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, and 79, 80, Assam experienced negative growth rates of NSDP, Net State Domestic Product. And if we consider Manipur, Manipur experienced negative growth rate in 1967, 68, 16 and 70, 70, 71, and again in 78, 79. While Arunachal Pradesh experienced negative growth rate in 1979, 80. What matters actually is the share of GSDP, gross state domestic product, of the state in GDP of the country, not the rate of growth. As the methodology adopted for the new series of GDP is quite different from the old method, therefore, I would like to concentrate on the new series data. And in 2018-19, we see that the northeastern states in GDP at constant prices has share of 2.75%. And if we consider the first 5 states with high GDP growth rate, then the result is that Maharashtra topped the list with a growth rate of 13.94% in current prices, and 14.56% was the rate of growth of Maharashtra in 2011-12. And Tamil Nadu achieved a growth rate of 8.63% in current prices, and at constant prices it was 8.68%. Now, if we consider the net state domestic product at current prices, then also we see that contribution of all the northeastern states is 1.69%. Of course, their combined contribution to the GDP of the country is 2.8%. So both the GSDP data, that is, both the gross state domestic product data and net state domestic product data show the same trend. But if we consider the states having highest growth rate, then we see that these states don't have the highest rank in the list. That is, Maharashtra's rank in GSDP and NSDP at current prices is 15, and in constant prices, their rank in GSDP, gross state domestic product, is also 17. If we move back, that is, if we consider the year 2004-5, then also we see that contribution of northeastern states to GDP is less than 3%. It was then 2.95%. So if we compare with 2018-19 data, then we see a decline in percentage here. And GDP of the year 2004-5 is shown in the table 1.6. Here we see Assam has a higher share than 1.79% in NDP of the country. So if we consider this share with today's share of Assam, then it shows a decline in percentage share. So from the above analysis, it is clear that the high growth rate of the northeastern states is due to low base effect. That is, their GDP is already low, and if we compare a slight increase in GDP with that data, then due to low base effect, we see a high rate of growth of the economy. Now the question is how the state can achieve the first rank in GDP list. In order to lead the growth story of the country, northeastern region has to raise its share in GDP. Okay. Now the question is how? All the northeastern states have to raise its GDP and NSDP to the level of the states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat. Of course, if we consider the sector-wise GDP of the northeastern states, we see the similar pattern in case of all the states, all the top states of the country, that is Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat, etc. Here, the contribution of the tertiary sector is the highest to the GDP. It is so for all the states except Sikkim. In case of Sikkim, secondary sector contributes the highest percentage to GDP. But in case of Maharashtra, we see the pattern is that tertiary sector contributes 57%, and in case of Tamil Nadu, it is 51%. Okay, that means tertiary sector contributes the highest percentage to GDP in case of all these states. Now the question is, can Act's policy be the game changer? Here comes the question of Act's policy, about which our Minister Jitendra Singh told. We know Northeast region is not resource deficient. By establishing connectivity with its neighboring countries by all possible routes and capturing the markets of Asia and Pacific with the products in the production of which Northeast region has comparative advantage, and taking the advantage of all bilateral agreements and regional cooperation forum, Northeast state can completely transform its economy. In this respect, Act's policy opens the door of ample opportunities. And if we go back to the past, we see that we have a very glorious past. prior to 1947, trade and commerce flourished in northeastern region. Actually, northeastern region was one of the prosperous regions of the country at that time. That is before 1947, before independence. Then it was the region in which oil, coal, tea was discovered, and the British government was compelled to develop infrastructure in this region due to the discovery of all this. In 1853, first tea garden was established, and soon more and more tea gardens came, facilitating export of tea from this region. And since then, tea had a special place in the international market. After the East Oil Refinery, that is the first oil refinery of Northeast region, Digboy, was established in 1890, and with these industrial activities started in this region, the railway line connecting Dibrugarh with the Sitagang was established in 1904, and this was one of the first railways in India. So everything was very positive at that time. To facilitate trade, Northeast India was well connected with the markets in India as well as the rest of the world. And at that time, global trade was conducted through two ports. One is at Sitagang and other was at Kolkata. And these ports were connected to the region with all the routes, that is, waterways, roadways, and railways. But the problem started with the division of the country. Division made the region geographically isolated. It is connected to the rest of India through second neck, that is Siliguri corridor. Inland water, road, and railway connectivity through Bangladesh was interrupted suddenly. As a result, distance to markets increased, more time was required, and all these discouraged trade. So we can say that Northeast region suffers from geographical isolation due to the partition of the country. Till few years ago, almost all the consumer goods were imported from outside of the state. Besides transport and logistic bottlenecks, lack of institutional and physical infrastructure, and insurgency in certain parts of the region were the problems which have slowed down the progress. These problems in fact nullified the border advantage enjoyed by this region. But the successive government of our country had the realization of it. So they started Northeastern Council in 1971 to give a holistic approach to all the programs undertaken in this region for its development. After that, in 2001, the Department of Northeastern Region was established to monitor the development initiative undertaken by the government as well as the semi-government agencies. And this region has been obtaining some special economic packages. In 1996, H.D. Devegara government gave 6,100 crores to this region as special economic package. After that, in 2000, Atal Bihari Vajpayee gave 10,271 crores as another special economic package. And since 2000, Northeast region became a part of the Look East policy, For the success of the Lookist policy, the access to the Asian by sea routes through Bangladesh and land routes through Myanmar and China is required. In 2014, Lookist policy changed to Act East policy, and Lookist was replaced by Act East with the purpose that this time some programs will be taken to bring success, development, and trade to the Northeast region. And the underlying assumption was that trade across border would usher economic activity in this neglected frontier of the country. The Asian Bloc consisted of 10 countries, and it has an aggregated economic size of $2.3 trillion. Countries are Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, Laos, and Brunei. Again, Northeast Asia's international border with China in the north, Myanmar in the east, Bangladesh in southwest, and Bhutan in the northwest. If we consider the market along with these neighboring countries, then we'll get a huge market of 2.81 billion people. Again, the export from India to Bhutan, Myanmar, Bangladesh creates a significant market base for industries set up in this region. Now the question is, whom should we follow to develop the Northeast? We have a model before us, that is Yunnan. Yunnan province in China offers a model for Northeast to develop. This Chinese province is located in the geographical center of Asia, rich in biodiversity, natural resources, and is home to some important trading routes of China. It is a critical agricultural hub for China. It is the 5th largest province in China on the basis of its land area. And there are certain similarities between Yunnan and Nar, that is their population, first, population of a similar size. Second is their indigenous communities. They have diverse indigenous communities. Third is mountainous region in both the countries, in both the areas. A rich natural resource base is seen in both the areas, hydropower potential, rich tourism potential. And Yunnan has a 4,060 kilometer long international border with Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam. And if we consider northeastern region, it has 5,000 kilometer long international border with China, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. Despite the above advantages, Yunnan province remained poor till 1979. But in 1979, this province was positioned as a gateway to the Southwest PRC and Southeast Asia. The result was tremendous. Between 2010 and 2016, there was per annum growth of GDP at the rate of 10.9%, and this rate was more than the national average of 8.1% per year. If we consider the recent data, then the GDP of Yunnan is about RMB 2.3 trillion. In this country, in this GDP, in GDP, tourism sector contributes the most. And the trade with ASEAN across the border of Yunnan, due to the initiatives taken by the Chinese government, is of $14 billion. If we come to Northeastern region, the combined GDP of the Northeast approximately $65 billion. Rate of growth of the combined GDP is 6.5% in 2018-19. And in the year 2005-6, the rate of growth of Northeastern region was just 4.8%. In order to reach the above mentioned enviable feat, some strategies were adopted by the Chinese government. These strategies were targeted sectors with high export potential. Focus was on connectivity. Various highways, rail links were built to improve link between Yunnan and Asian. Again, build border trade infrastructure. And if you consider their merchandise exports, then we see the list contains agricultural products in fertilizer, non-ferrous metals, labor-intensive manufactured products, electrical equipment. Under Act's policy, the government is relying on 3 Cs, that is culture, connectivity, and commerce, to develop better relations with ASEAN via Northeast region. So it gives ample opportunities for Northeastern region to improve infrastructure and increase export, and thereby to acquire a prominent place in the growth story of India. Northeast states can rely on certain products for exports in which they have some advantage. For example, if we consider electrical equipment, then Nepal and Bhutan depend on India for electrical equipment. Similarly, Bangladesh and Myanmar have huge demand for electrical equipment. Coming to our region, per capita consumption of power is less than the national average. So, along with the development of the region, there will be increasing demand for this electrical equipment. So, in order to capture both the internal and external market, industries can be set up here. So, investments should be in this sector. Similarly, following some industries we can identify on which we can rely for increasing trade with BBN countries, Asian countries, and Pacific. These industries are tea, agriculture and agro-based industries, bamboo-based, mineral-based, tourism including medical tourism, plastics, electrical equipment. Similarly, other forest-based industries, oil, particularly for refined products, and articles of apparel and clothing accessories. In case of plastic, of course, upstream segment of the plastic value chain is already operational in India. And the most positive thing is that the setting up of Brahmaputra Cracker and Polymer Limited has increased the supply of polymer feedstock. Now the question is how to take benefit from it. There is potential for downstream linkages with Bangladesh. Similarly, we have surplus agricultural and horticultural production. Would you please go through this slide, table 1.8, depicts the surplus in agricultural and horticultural production in Northeastern region. And it is evident from our comfortable position. Among Indian states, Assam is the highest area under pineapple cultivation. It is also the largest producer of ginger across Indian states. Northeast actually produces 20% of total ginger production in the country, and focusing on these crops, that is on pineapple and ginger, in which we have comparative advantage, we can occupy the markets of Asian countries, Western and Eastern Europe, Middle Eastern countries. If a multimodal logistic park is established, not in this valley actually, in Borak Valley, there is one multimodal logistic park in Guwahati. So if we think about another park in Borak Valley, then using the facility of this logistic hub, it will be possible to enable containerized movement of fresh pineapple to the rest of India as well as to the Gulf countries. In case of Gulf countries, they have a demand for these products. And if we come to bamboo, then the entire Northeast has 20% of the bamboo area and 66% of the growing stock of India. So, developing supply chains for the bamboo products, Assam and Northeast can capture the market of India as well as the European Union. For this, of course, a targeted approach is needed based on bamboo timber, agarbatti or incense stick, and product diversification. Of course, one positive step has already been taken by the government of India, that is the 90-year-old India Forest Act of 1919 was amended by the Narendra Modi government. But the most promising outcome of these efforts will be increased industrialization in this area. There will be increase in investment in this area. And just like Inan, several connectivity projects have already been undertaken by the government of India so that Northeast region can receive investment and export orders. We can take some examples. Access to Chattogram port is crucial for industrial development of this region, as well as containerized and heavy bulk transshipment. And Agartala-Chabrum route is expected to serve this objective. And this 110-kilometer route, that is the rail route to Bangladesh, has already been started. A sub-regional grouping of Bangladesh, China, India, and Myanmar has also been set up to deepen friendly cooperation among these countries. So we all can take the advantage of our infrastructure, roadways, airways, and seaways. Some projects which will increase trade and commerce from this area, Northeastern region, can be identified as Trans-Asian Highway, Trans-Asian Railways. Secondly, India-Myanmar Thailand Trilateral Highway. Similarly, East-West Corridor, Kaladan Multimodal Transit Project, Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar Economic Corridor, and SARC Corridor. The issue of expansion of railway network in the Northeast region by connecting all state capitals with broad gauge lines has been taken seriously by the government of India. Besides establishing inter-country rail connectivity with neighboring countries like Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. And in this regard, a major initiative is the Trans-Asian Railway. Cargo transportation and transit from the Northeastern region will be largely benefited from this Trans-Asian Railway route connecting Myanmar to India via Murray and Tamu and all the inter-country linkages of the Trans-Asian network. The bilateral, if we consider the trilateral highway project, that is the India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway project, then also we see a good prospect for Northeastern region. And another positive thing is that we have now an international airport in Guwahati. Besides flights to Dhaka and Bangkok, flights to 4 other countries, 4 other cities will be started under UDAN scheme. Commercial flights to Singapore has already been started. Sikkim also arrives in India's airlink map with the Peking airport in 2018. The rail footprint in entire Northeast, we know, is still very weak. But the positive thing is that the railway minister has announced that it would ensure that their department will ensure internal rail connectivity by March 2022. Of course, the Jakarta Land Customs Station in Mizoram has fragmented infrastructure and little formal trade takes place there. But if we consider the another integrated check post ICP at More in Manipur, it is comparatively active. Indian border trade with Myanmar through this ICP is $50 million. And if we come to the export facilities, then we see, in order to facilitate trade with neighboring countries, the government of India has created comprehensive export infrastructure facilities along the border. Government of our state has already approved the setting up of 5 border centers. These border trade centers are Chutarkandi, Mankachar, Golokganj, Darang, and Jabun. Of course, one at Darang has already been started. These are at various stages of implementation. Of course, these border trade centers will benefit Assam in many ways. Assam, as well as all the northeastern states, can kickstart economic development by strengthening their links with important gateways in the region to be benefited from the neighboring international market. And so, we have to consider all these border trade centers, land, customs station, integrated checkpoint, ICPs, ports, and airports. We all know before the partition of the country, trading was done through Satragam or Sitagam port. Now, the Satragam port has been developed. The development of Satragam port as transshipment hub will increase trade from the northeast India, and Bangladesh have already arrived at an agreement with the government of India regarding this. So there will be to and fro of goods from Chettragam, from Bangladesh to Northeast region through these ports, these 2 ports, of course, Chettragam port and Mongla port. Similarly, Chonamara Dokandi route of inland waterways connecting Tripura to Bangladesh has already been started. There is the potential to utilize refining capacity in Northeast by importing crude oil from other countries, for example, from Myanmar, and on refining these crude products, it can again be exported to other countries. The present government of Assam has already taken steps regarding this. Myanmar needs energy, needs actually oil, refined oil from northeastern region, and we all know Assam already has refineries, and total capacity of the refineries of Assam is 7 million tons of crude oil annually. That is, with the help of 4 refineries, we can refine total 7 million tons of crude oil. And again, Numoligo Refinery Limited will increase its capacity from 3 MMT to 9 MMT. Already there is an agreement that Assam will import crude oil of 6 MMT from Paradip. After bringing crude oil from Paradip in Orissa through pipeline, it will be refined in Assam and then will be exported to Bangladesh and Myanmar. The export of diesel to Myanmar presently done by road utilizing tank trunk through the Moretamu border. And our very own ONGC is engaged in exploration of natural gas in Myanmar. The gas supply from Myanmar along with the Tripura gas reserves can be used for thermal power generation and other industries in northeastern region and other parts of the country as well. And if we consider the initiative taken by our neighboring countries as well as other international organizations, then we see international organizations like Asian Development Bank, World Bank, UNDP, etc. are working with us. Northeastern states, for example, Assam has foreign consulates. They have consulates of Bangladesh. They have consulates of Bhutan and Guwahati, and Nepal and Myanmar are also planning to open the same. Singapore has opened a skill development center in Guwahati, and we all know Japan has already started investment in several fields in Assam. For example, you can refer to investment in health, investment in infrastructure, energy, water supply, irrigation, environment, etc. And Japan-India Act East Forum is set up to facilitate all these investment, and a chance is given to the Northeast to utilize their technology. Northeastern region can be benefited from the investment made in neighboring countries in recent years by other countries, for example, China and Japan. If we take one example, recently, Japan is investing in Bangladesh in the automobile sector, taking the advantage of Make in India initiative. Northeastern region can start supplying auto components and other equipments, other parts, etc., to the companies or the manufacturing unit of the Bangladesh. Similarly, Japan's Fujita company has already started real estate projects in Myanmar, and Assam as well as other northeastern states can start the business of supplying basic services to these real estates, and similarly other industries can come forward, taking the advantage of forward and backward linkage effect. In this regard, I would like to quote. I would like to mention one remark made by former Ambassador Anil Wada. He rightly pointed out actually that access to Bay of Bengal and rest of India with Bangladesh is very essential for harnessing the economic potentialities of northeastern region. After this discussion, one question is raised, that is it a dream only or is it a reality? Now, we'll take into consideration other regional cooperation framework. Even before the adoption of Act East policy, Northeast India was a part of the several regional cooperation framework. For example, we can refer to SARC, SASEC, BMSTEC, BCIM, GMS, and ASEAN. But it is the Act East policy that has created hope and aspiration among the people of the region. There are reasons behind this expectation. Northeast region is the only region in our country with the heft to counterbalance China's southwest, including Yunnan. Economic Survey 2018 states that export internationally and trade with other states were found to be richer. India's trade with Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, PDR has been increasing in recent years, but the share of Northeast is less than 2%. But the very act of launching Act East created hope because India was in a comfortable position now, favorable position from the perspective of economic might when the Act East policy was announced. But if we consider the Look East policy, then it was announced at a time when India had a very fragile economy due to economic crisis of 1991. In the very agenda of Look East policy, we see in northeastern region was actually neglected in its land of forging deeper ties with East Asia. Northeast India's free trade with Asian countries has been in operation since 2010 because Asian-India free trade has been in operation since then. The bilateral trade between India and the Asian countries was estimated at $152 billion during 2013-14, and it was forecast that India's bilateral trade with Asian countries will be of more than $1,000 billion by 2035. And this projection is by FICCI. But the latest Export Preparedness Index and Ease of Doing Index have brought into light some weaknesses of our development agenda cropped up at the implementation stage. This is the category-wise export preparedness score and ranking of the Northeast India. Among the Himalayan states, we see Tripura as the first position, Meghalaya, but their score is very low. And among the landlocked states, Assam has the score of 22.81. It is very low. And according to the report, it indicates the disconnect. This index indicates the disconnect of the Act East policy with the ground realities, that is the hill states of northeastern state has performed poorly due to the absence of state-center cooperation. Similarly, some stakeholders don't have knowledge about it, and there is no definitive measure to gain access to international market. And if we come to the Ease of Doing Business Index, then we see that in the Assam's position in this is 20. Similarly, Arunachal Pradesh is a rank of 29. Of course, there's certain improvement in the rank if we consider all the northeastern states as a whole. And according to the latest information, till February 2021, 15 states completed ease of doing business reform in our country. And among the 8 northeastern states, only Assam completed ease of doing business reform till then. And another important factor is that northeastern region did not get due importance at the hands of Finance Commission. Actually, change came with the 14th Finance Commission, and it is the 14th Finance Commission that increased the allocation for Northeast by 251%. And the 13th Finance Commission gave only rupees 89,168 crore, while the 14th Finance Commission gave 3,13,375 crore. Recently, one study is done by Mrs. Nicha Taneja. She is a professor in ICRIER. It is a gap analysis done in infrastructure at LCCs and ICPs in the Northeast. The region has some deficiency regarding land custom station and integrated checkpost. If we consider the land custom station, we have 38 land custom station, 24 of them are functional, 14 are non-functional. And if we consider the facilities there, then even the cargo handling facilities, animal and plant quarantine, cold storage, testing facilities, which are considered key features of any modern day LCCs, are totally absent here. Similarly, all these trade centers, border trade centers, are not well equipped. And this study shows that in the year 2019-20, international trade through Northeast was of just rupees 3,000 crores. It's very negligible if you consider in respect of all the countries. Of course, there is increasing trade with our neighbors, with our Asian partners, with other Pacific partners, with Vietnam, with Japan, but we have not been able to cross the threshold of 2%. And if we consider the another constraint that has cropped up in the implementation of transit post, for example, if we consider the colored and multimodal project and another route title, that is Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway, which are considered as crucial for connectivity to these countries, to neighboring countries. Then we see Jakarta. In Jakarta, there is actually no work at all. Now there is no work is going on in Jakarta. And if we come back to Kaladan Multimodal Transport Project, then we see it starts from West Bengal, charts and over 500 kilometer land area to the Bay of Bengal to Myanmar Setue port, where it channels the Kaladan River. Then it connects to Northeast region. Of course, pandemic is a problem associated with the construction of this, but there are other problems. These problems are created by military group. Myanmar's military group. It delayed the project, and these projects should have been completed by 2020, and it is now expected that it will be completed within 4 years. That is, we have to wait for 2025. And after this analysis of constraint, another constraint comes to our mind. That is, in the last wave of the pandemic, Northeastern states have topped the list of states in managing COVID-19. But this time, several cases of casualties have been reported. So the post-COVID growth story of the region will depend on the success in managing the successive waves of the virus and lessening the negative impact of this on the economy. Now, if we contrast the two, expectation versus reality. Though some problems already cropped up in projects related to Act's policy, it doesn't make the mass cities dream of the Northeast becoming an export and agricultural hub a pipe dream. An environment congenial for the development of industries as well as investment has steadily developed in this region. If we consider Assam, then we see that among all the northeastern states, Assam has proceeded first in case of investment. It has become a new investment destination. We have seen some prominent companies are investing in Assam. For example, ITC, Sun Pharma, Dalmia, Bharat Cement, Infinity, Mahindra, SpiceJet, Patanjali, Dabur, Natco Farm, etc. And certain hospital chains like Apollo, Shankar Netralaya, Fertige, and Narayana Healthcare have already entered the health market of the northeastern region. And certain multinational pharma companies have entered the field. They are Ojon Pharmaceuticals Limited with their modern and high-tech manufacturing unit in Guwahati, Nilamani Pharmaceuticals Works in Imphal, Chemical Laboratories in Ceylon, etc. Actually, infrastructural development undertaken under Act's policy, coupled with investment-friendly policies and programs taken by the northeastern states, have inspired the companies to invest in Northeast. These are the positive outcomes. Hope these straight effects of Act's initiative will spread further. With this positive note, I would like to conclude this lecture. Thanks again to all the faculty members of the Economics Department of Pragyatis College, my very own college. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Dr. Susmita Priya, for a very wonderful lecture where you had very rightly pointed out the possibilities that exist and the government steps that are being taken. But due to the geographical location, a lot of constraints are there. We have to overcome all those things. Even the Prime Minister always says that the Northeast is the root of Hasta Lakshmi for India. And with development of this region, Hasta Lakshmi will contribute largely to India's GDP. That is a very positive note from the Prime Minister. I think all of those who have been present here have been benefited. There definitely would be some questions. I would request now Dr. Bidyut Vikas Boishaw to forward these questions so that Susmita can attempt to answer those queries. Over to Bindut.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We are having a few questions, ma'am. So I'm forwarding one by one. The first question is by Susmita Locker. She is our guest faculty in our department, also a research scholar. So she has asked that, do you think in order to improve the border trade with our neighboring countries, the Act-East policy needs to be upgraded? If so, in which areas more emphasis should be given? So this is our first question. So would you like to take all the questions or one by one?
One by one.
Okay.
Thanks for the question. Actually, everything is in the Act-East policy. If you read the Act-East policy, for the development of the Northeast region, what is most essential is the trade infrastructure and connectivity. And the focus of the Act-East policy is that. So, if our focus remains a focus, then we will gain everything. But state government should do one more thing. If we are to take advantage of the trade infrastructure, we should have a trade policy. We should have an export policy. Trade policy will be decided by the government of India, and that is we have now. Now, in case of export policy, out of all these northeastern states, only Assam had an export policy, and that was announced in 2018. You see, there is long gap since independence to get an export policy. And if we consider 2014, then we required 4 years to get an export policy. So I think upgradation is not needed. Rather, the coordination of the states and the initiative on the part of the state governments of the Northeast is required to facilitate trade with neighboring countries, Asian countries, and Pacific countries.
Thank you, ma'am. So next question is by our faculty, Dr. Ira Das. So ma'am have asked that you have rightly said about the potentiality of agriculture, horticulture, etc. for the development of the states. We know that land-man ratio is decreasing day by day. So we need efficient and optimal use of agricultural land and with value addition through agro-processing industries. What is your opinion in this regard?
Thank you, Iraba. She is my senior in the university and just like my sister. So, Iraba, actually, you were very right. We require agro-processing industries here, and you will be glad to know that Assam Agricultural University actually organizes certain workshops about agriculture, that is how to cultivate, how to do actually farming in a very small plot of land. Okay. Yeah, even even you can do gardening or kitchen gardening in your sat. So these things are being taught there. Workshops are being organized here. So land-man ratio is not a problem. In our case, it is. This problem is not like the problem of Bangladesh. So we should not confuse with that. So it can be tackled because we have the expertise. We are not utilizing it. But there are certain other problems. If as you were asking this question, I would like to elaborate on another aspect. That is what these people are given training, but after cultivation, these people are not getting the market. That is the problem. They are providing all the training. These are well-equipped, well-informed cultivators. They are doing all these things. And after cultivation, they are not getting the market. And if you consider the organic farming, after completing a course, one organic vegetable market actually was set up near my home. It is at the center of Jorhat. Okay. After some days, it was closed because people will not go there to purchase. Why? Because the price is high. So in that case, Assam government should consider about the marketing. And land, I think land rent ratio is not a problem now. And I have faith on because I am living in Jorhat. I know what they are doing actually, and I am proud of that they are tackling all these problems. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So there is another question. It is asked by Duke Juti Handy. He is our 5th semester student, major student. So Duke has asked that, ma'am, does trade competition lead some of the smaller national economies to an economic crisis? Trade competition among those nations, does it lead to economic crisis?
Perhaps you are 5th sem student, no? So it is in your course, perhaps. Yeah. So I can guess that it is in your course regarding this purchasing power and all these theories. Okay. Yeah. So now the question is, in case of small countries, what is their strength and how they will utilize the strength? That is the question. Up to certain extent, they have to develop themselves first. After this, they can go for trade. অসমীয়া দেখাৰ কথা আছে, খাটুৰ খাটুৰ নিজ বাহু বলে, খাটুৰিব নোৱাৰিলে যাৰ অকাতলে। কথাটো আচলতে তেনেকুৱা। তুমি খাটুৰিব পাৰিব লাগিব, you are to swim. গতিকে সুইম কৰিবলৈ হলে তুমি আগতেতো সুইমিং জানিব লাগিব। ঠিক একেধৰণে ট্ৰেডৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত কি হয় যে সৰু সৰু দেশবিলাকে ইন কেছ অফ স্মল কাণ্ট্ৰিজ দে ফাৰ্ষ্ট হ্যাভ টু আইডেন্টিফাই দেয়াৰ ষ্ট্ৰেংথ। নৰ্থ ইষ্ট ৰিজন, if you consider with respect to GDP, then it is actually very backward in comparison to other states. Then why we are introducing these active policies? Because we know their strength. Because we have these things, we have agricultural, horticultural resources, natural resources, we have minerals, so we can fight with them. So if the small nations want to fight, want to trade with other bigger nations, this question will arise, your question will arise, if they are going to trade with bigger nations, then they are to first identify their potential and accordingly they have to follow the specific strategies. They should not enter into everything. They should not enter into all the goods. So specific strategy is needed. This question that small nations, if fight with the bigger nation, they will lose, they will face economic crisis. It's an old concept now.
There is another 2 questions. Next is from our HOD, Nomita ma'am. So Nomita ma'am asks, the SDG Index Report 2021 published by the NITI Aayog has shown that Assam has failed to make any significant gains in SDGs. Key indicators like health, education, gender equality, and clean water are areas where Assam fares very poorly. Even states like Sikkim and Mizoram, which limited, are placed in a better position. So, what should be the focus of the new government?
If you consider this time, then it is the time for investment in health sector. If we consider the pandemic situation, the answer is that the new government should invest in health. This is said because you see, in between September to March, this March, number of beds, with oxygen and ICU beds have declined in Assam, but number of ventilators has increased in Assam. So there is a mismatch. All the people do not require ventilators. So health sector, there is certain actually mismanagement. There is actually lack of planning. You see, these people are doing day and night. It is good, but you see, there are ventilators, but there are no oxygen beds. So it is very difficult to imagine how what will happen if the situation deteriorates. So health is the first. Second, you see, if you go to Hujai area, if you go to Hujai area, the Hujai Jamuna area, people are suffering from arsenic. They are not getting drinking water. If you go to Dima Hasao, because I personally went there, so these people, these small kids are crippled due to arsenic poison. And the fact is that till date, government of Assam has not done any survey on arsenic or on arsenic, and that is the problem. You see, every year in assembly session, data are required, and that data are supplied by the local people or by the local MLAs. But what happens, that actually that no survey has been done. So government of Assam has no idea how people are suffering, what number of people are suffering. But we have a Jal mission. We have a water mission. We are doing several activities in water mission. So first we require a survey on arsenic, how people are suffering, whether people are getting drinking water properly, in how many liters per person. So that is required. And regarding other, we require the road infrastructure. Internal roads are not good in all places. Okay. And again, if you consider areas like Kalapani near Numuigar, that is back of the it is just back in the back of Numaligarh refinery. You will see there is no development, no road infrastructure there. So there are certain places like this. So you are to identify. The new Assam government is doing day and night in case of health. So now is the time to do day and night in case of health, in case of road construction, in case of drinking water, etc. This should be the priority. And one more request, in case of Assam, you will be actually surprised to say that these people's representatives are doing certain activities which are actually not necessary. We invite our representatives to our marriage ceremony, to inaugurate a public hall, to inaugurate a Namghar. That is not necessary. They have some other duties to do. They have some constitutional duties. We first correct ourselves. Okay. We should not invite them to this. Let them do their activities. And as these people are now doing day and night, then compel them to maintain this attitude. Till the last day of the 5 years. Only then Assam will develop. Activists will be actually all the benefits of activists will be realized by Assam. So I think the priority should be that the attitude, this attitude of the government, this attitude of the members of the assembly will be maintained for the coming 5 years, and that is the duty of all of us. That they should be compelled to maintain it. Thank you, Namita.
Thank you, Susmita. Thank you, Susmita. You have even answered very nicely. Actually, our attitude should change, and even the government representatives, MLAs, their attitude also to work. The work culture has to change.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. It is a very interesting question, and I like it.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. And I hope there is one more question. It is the final one. So it is asked by Prantor Buragohai. He is also a 5th sem student. He have asked, ma'am, apart from production, proper storage and connectivity and access to market is also a huge problem, especially in Assam, resulting wastage of agro products. What will be some probable solution to it?
It is a good question. Actually, storage should be increased. Otherwise, worst days will go on. So storage is required, cold storage is required, and private parties should be encouraged to do so. So if you consider Assam, it is not possible for government of Assam to spend on these things, at least for coming 2 years. The finance is not good at this time. So if private parties are given incentive, then they will come forward. And if you consider the Northeast Industrial Development Scheme, then in this scheme, there are certain incentives. And even 200, even up to 200 crores incentives will be given by the government if the project is PPP mode, the private-public partnership. So government can think about private-public partnership. Cold storage should be encouraged only, and wastage will be controlled. Otherwise, not. It is a good question, of course.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Over
you.
to Tunu, sir. This is from.
Okay. Thank you, Vidut, for conducting the session well. I think before I hand over the mic for the formal vote of thanks, also I think I would take a liberty of reacting to two things. One is a question raised by Duke Jinghandik about the small nations. I think you should look into the small nations like Singapore, Hong Kong, Israel, Switzerland, and you should look into them. Singapore, as I always give an example, is maybe equal to the undivided Kamrup district, which imports and exports more than India. And then our neighboring country, Bangladesh, we always speak bad things about it, but it is the second largest textile manufacturer after China. So what is lacking, as Susmita has very rightly pointed out, that we need to change our attitudes. The potential is there. When there is a challenge, you have to meet it. Like we are having a challenge about the pandemic situation, and we are all responding to it. And that is all. And I am very much encouraged by hearing Susmita, because I wanted to pose this question, but I think she has already given a reply. I just want a reaction that our present Chief Minister has very boldly stated that he would work day and night for putting Assam among the top 5 states. What is your reaction to that?
It is very good, very positive. And he has taken this step to import refined oil to Myanmar and Bangladesh. That is another positive step taken by him. Yeah.
And I think with that objective, Assam government has decided to increase the participation in Numaligarh refinery.
Yeah. That is actually well thought out plan.
Yes.
He has thought about it before this election, actually.
Yes.
He's just like a visionary in this respect.
So we are very much hopeful, even if we are passing through a very unprecedented situation. But your lecture, with the facts and other things, you have very well projected it. I would now request Vidut Vikas Boishar to deliver the formal vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, I, on behalf of Department of Economic Project Solace, stand here to offer the formal vote of thanks. So, what we observe in today's economic context, or today's much discussed topic of the town, that everyone is going like that, growing consciousness regarding Northeast potentialities of growth. That is the talk of the town. We are talking about the LEP of 1991, Lucas policy, and we are also talking about the Act East policy 2014. So in this regard, I wish to thank Dr. Susmita Priya ma'am for successfully showing us the picture, how growth data support this perception. So we also offer our heartfelt thanks to Susmita ma'am for very articulately showing the relationship between the Act East policy, the Asian market, and the Northeastern region. So this is a triangle, and this would operate on the trade infrastructure and connectivity, the main basis. So very much thankful for articulately showing these things. Ma'am, the UN model you have suggested or you have shown, hope this could be an eye-opener for the policymakers, the authorities, researchers, and many more in the greater interest of the nation. Once again, we pay our humble gratitude for such an informative lecture and enriching our knowledge. We are very much thankful and grateful to you. Thank you, ma'am. We also like to offer our sincere gratitude to Dr. Deepak Bora sir, former HOD of our department, for kindly gracing the occasion and blessing us. Sir's presence has put a sum to it, and hope that the blessings will shower upon us in the near future. Thank you, sir, for being with us. We also offer our thankfulness to our principal, sir, for encouraging us in organizing such a lecture. We would also like to thank our participant and our guest, Rotarian Tarun Bordole sir, Swapanjyoti Sharma sir, our visiting faculty, my friends from Gujarat Vidyapith Center for Rural Management, Lokesh Jainji, and other faculty members, Randheja, Gujarat, for participating in this memorial lecture. I also like to thank the students and the research scholar for their patient hearing. Moreover, the faculty from various departments and other institutions, besides Pragyutis College, especially the faculty of Pandu College, I would also like to thank them for their patient hearing. Last but not the least, I would also like to thank our IQAC, the coordinator, Manjit Majumdar sir, and the technical staff, especially Nayanjyoti Mahanto, for carrying out this event successfully. This is for formal vote of thanks area. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Vidyut. I think we are ready to close the meeting. I thank Susmita once again and thank everybody. And I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Susmita.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. It was a very nice meeting, and hope to meet you all again. Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.